The Triple Trio with Hutchi, Richo and RS Dye. It's Hong Kong racing with the blinkers off.
Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new edition of the Triple Trio as we look back at an unbelievable international race meeting in Hong Kong on Sunday, and of course look forward to another great day this Sunday. And I do it the best in the business, Clint Hutchison from Hutchi's Honkers, and of course the Hall of Fame jockey in Shane Dye, plus our fourth member of the team who's down on the ground in Nicole Purton. So lots to talk about. Hutch, well done. We've got through another international week.
Yeah, it was a fantastic week. A lot of highlights. I thought the Jockey Series was a huge success, and I thought every single one of the international races brought its own element of something special, and obviously the standout performance was Romantic Warrior. We'll chat a bit more about that later, but it was a great week and a huge success.
Everyone in the Triple Trio family wants to know how Shane Dye is. He's been under the weather physically, certainly not emotionally or mentally. How are you, Shane?
I can't get better, Richo. I've taken all the antibiotics, steroids, everything, but I just can't seem to shake this virus out of my throat and chest. But never mind, it'll go one day.
You will bounce back. Danny Shum is our star power guest today, and all the normal features that we've got, whether it be Sweet and Defeat, and we'll be monitoring how well they have been going, and also Genius or Slaughter, plus an in-depth look at the races on Sunday. But, well, let's first reflect on the four Group 1s on International Day, and it was billed as the World Championships on the turf. And let's start with the Vase, Hutch, because, by gee, did they come for Stone Age. So early markets was a big price. Started about $2.20 in the Vase.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that obviously the market did change that much, that drastically. But yeah, I mean, on face value, he was a bit keen. Okay, he was on the fence, which wasn't a good spot for me as far as I was concerned on the day, and he was disappointing. But maybe that slower tempo didn't help his cause. But a lovely ride, Shane, from Damien Lane on the Japanese entrant, and was pretty much one of two Japanese sort of raiders that ran well, and was the thing that it had in common with the other one was that it didn't run in the Tenno show, but it was a lovely ride from Damien Lane.
Very good ride, patient, brought him down the right part of the track. The fence was off, we know that, Clint. It wasn't hard to work that out. I picked that up after a race, you know. But the horse was just too good, but a very good ride.
And St. October leading in over 2,400 metres. We've heard, you know, Casper say there's not many races in Hong Kong for him. He went forward. It was interesting that Coolmore had two horses, but the horse that you thought would lead in Broome, he just didn't go to the lead. He sat three wide, sort of pair behind. A
little bit in no man's land, wasn't
correct.
It? But I thought there were a few international entrants throughout that were in the Vase and the Cup particularly that they just didn't travel.
Yeah.
They never sort of come on the bridle. I mean, I don't think Broome ever looked like he could get to the front.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm not sure.
And then Stone Age was over racing on the rail.
Yeah.
Ryan Moore was doing his absolute best to get him to settle, but the tempo was so moderate that he was just charging the whole race.
He was. Look, I think it's hard to draw a line on some of the others. I don't think, Shane, it was a stellar year, but that won't worry the Japanese. Win Marilyn, she was very good, and I suppose that now they've got their Group 1, they'll be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, Ryan was a little bit worried before the race. At the start, he said he wasn't his normal self. He was a little bit revved up on that. And he said he didn't travel the way he normally did either. So he knew before the race at the start that he could be in trouble. Senior Tupers won pace, so Casper elected to go to the front and try something different. What you said before about that race in Japan, the horses not turning up here, they had too hard a run in that race in Japan, Clint. There's no doubt about that, because in the race later on against Romantic Warrior, none of them turned up.
That's what we have to deduce, that there was, inverted commas, the gut buster run. And
but it can come both ways, can't it? Because sometimes out of those gut busters, they trampoline out of it and then run a PB.
Yes.
But you can't. They can't talk to us, Hutch. So we don't know. You know, Penthalas is the horse you're probably referring to, had that tearaway lead in a Group 1 in Japan. Well, when he got towards the Cup, he just couldn't get that tearaway lead.
Him, Geoglyph and Jack Daw, they were all flat.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't run up anywhere near what they could have, but we still saw something pretty special all the same.
Okay, but hey, let's go to the sprint. The build-up was incredible. Such a short price favourite. Sitting there in all yellow, stuck on the rails, Lucky Sweynesse with nowhere to go, whereas Ryan Moore sums it up down the outside with Wellington.
Yeah, the wide barrier was perfect for him. 3 wide trail, ideal on this track. Lovely ride from Ryan. This is how you got to ride him. Hong Kong dominated 1, 2, 3, 4. Lucky Sweynesse didn't step brilliantly, but I think as I wrote in a piece for Hutchie's Honkers earlier in the week, what happened, Shane, with sort of a very steady early section with, I think it was the Libs Kosciuszko and then Huey Bowman, the field rolling forward. Zach, when he stepped just fairly and he wanted to be in the 1-1, was then being dictated to, and it was very, very tricky from an early stage for him after that point.
Okay, watch this. Okay, Zach can't do anything about this. Danny Beasley, when you take the pace out of the race, the horses behind are really affected. Ryan Moore gave his a 10 out of 10 ride. He could have come in 1 off the fence, but elected to come back to be 3 deep because he knew the best part of the track was 3 wide. Up here, Zach's trying to stay out, but he can't. He gets pushed up against the fence. Now, this is when the pace comes out. Danny takes it out, and it just ruins the race and ruins Lucky Sweynesse. Now, that suits a horse back with a clear run coming forward. Look where Wellington is, He's just got the best run, just a 10 out of 10. Zach can't do anything about this. He's committed there. He doesn't want to be there, but where does he go? He's trying to come off the fence. Look, he's laying in, but he's got nowhere to go. Now, if you're watching this and you don't think that Lucky Sweynesse would have won, you should never watch the video and bet on another horse because he would have won for sure. There's no risk he would have won. The best horse didn't win the race because he had the run that he had. And what Ryan gave us a perfect ride. Last week I said it was a 2-horse race when James said it was very open. James said, it's an open race. It wasn't an open race. There was 2 horses in it. One had all the luck in the world and the other one didn't. If Lucky Sweynesse had got out, or had a good run, he wins for sure. That's not even debatable. He wins.
I 100% agree with you. And then, Shane, when looking back at that replay again, and I think your point's so valid, and I've watched it a number of times, there is no moment in the race where Zach makes a poor decision. He is just dictated by horses outside him, and he just gets stuck in a spot where you can't jump him.
No, and even when Joe was on his inside and just stayed off him a little bit, and then that forced him back down to the rail as well because he was on his outside and just the way the race unfolded. Yeah. So there was nothing he could do. But obviously should have won, and he was a short price favourite, and they'll live to fight another day. It'll be a good clash. I mean, on my figures, they sort of ran below what each one of them has this season to win it. And I think the other point, Shane, once again, we've had Japanese sprinters go over. Hong Kong 1, 2, 3, 4. The horses that ran in behind Wellington, they're no stars, but they've beaten the rest of them. So, once again, it just boosts the local form.
I said last week, Spirit could improve, which he did.
Skyfield.
The horse that ran third, he ran well. His trial before that was good, but those 2 sprinters stand out by a long way. The other one that might come into it when he gets a gate is Cordyceps 6, but he needs a gate where he can just track up on the fence and come out. He's not as good as the other 2, but he's not that far away from them with the right run in the race.
Yeah, so the sprint goes to Wellington, and then we get to the mile. This build-up was incredible. It was the big battle. California Spangle's about to take the lead, and Golden 60s got him in his sights.
What a performance. It was an interesting race. I mean, obviously, Hugh allowed Beauty Joy just to roll forward, and it made the race, I think, for the winner, and Don Shane's of the same opinion. And like I said, I wrote a piece about it early in the week. It injected that mid-race pressure, so it just strung them out a little bit. Look, Golden 60 was gallant defeat. There's not much between them. We've said that before. There's not much between these 2, and it's just those little things in races that can change. I don't know what Zach was going to do prior to Huey allowing Beauty Joy to roll. But I know one thing. When Beauty Joy did roll, Shane, it just, stretched out the field. It increased the tempo. It meant that Golden 60 was that little bit further back due to also what had happened in the race, and he was sort of almost 3 lengths off him rather than 2. And ultimately, that was a bridge too far.
Well, Zach should give half his riding fee to Huey because Huey won the race for Zach when he took off. Right? Now, I'm going to explain this race, and I've always said to you, when I go out there, I'm not trying to win a race. I'm trying to get the other horse beat, or how can the other horse get beat? This was a 2-horse race, and this wasn't a bad ride by Vincent, but he did the opposite to what I would have done in a race. He had to be third fence. If he's third fence, he wins for sure. He cannot get beat. He's better than the winner. And the only way he could get beat was up here. I had a friend staying at my house, and he said he's off the fence. I said, that's the worst thing possible. He can get beat now. If he's third fence, he's got to follow California Spangle, but he's electing to come out. Now, if we stop here, watch here, see how he's come off. Now, his horse is about to pull, right? Because he's had to push out the other one out of the way. Now, what's that done is he's got travelling, which he doesn't normally travel that hard at present in races, but he's made him travel. And he's pushed Beauty Joy out of the way. So Beauty Joy now has to go forward, but he's travelling too hard. So when the pace goes, you lose ground when you're pulling. You can't go with them. And it takes more out of a horse than you realise. This is when the race is won for Zach by Yui going to the front. Zach didn't win this race. Yui won it, right? And he's got 4 lengths on him now, and it's too much. He should have been up his ass at the after the start, and he wins for sure. And he can't make the ground up. Now, the other thing you got to remember is he's second up, and Golden 60 may not go on to a level, which he can do because he was second up. And the other horse battled on well. But if he's third fence, he wins for sure. It's not even an issue. But it wasn't a bad ride by Vincent. It was a percentage ride, right? He played the percentages, what most people would do. I never played the percentage game when I rode. I went out there to try and get the other horse beat. Or how does the other horse get beat? And that race there was a 2-horse race. And if he's following California Spangle, and now you might say the fence was no good, and it wasn't any good, but that's irrelevant. I wouldn't care about the bias in that race because you're following the horse who you've got to beat and you forget about the other 7 runners. And he's on the fence. So it doesn't matter where he goes, you go. And you're coming out at the 300 and you go, boom. But in saying what I've said, it wasn't a bad ride from Vincent. He played the percentages, and percentages can win races, but they don't win big races a lot of the time.
What do you make of the look, I thought that they both would really thrash Laws of Indices, who we've seen race in Australia as a Group 1 winner in France. He ran out of his skin. Or did the other two on your ratings run not at their absolute peak?
They didn't run at their peak, but they didn't run far off it.
Okay.
So it shows.
So he's run out of his skin then.
He's run very well, but then again, maybe the likes of Alligator Blood in Australia or I'm Thunderstruck would be very competitive with those two because we know that they're better milers than he is. I would have said, but they've got to travel too and all the rest of it. Well done, Annabelle Nation, fantastic run. But once again, why don't more Australians go up and target these races? I mean, we've got to start looking back at that.
When COVID's in the rear vision mirror, they'll all be going back up. But, I think a lot of them were looking on and seeing in recent times Hong Kong's stance on COVID and saying, it's all too hard. Don't want to be there. However, now that that's getting behind us each and every day, I'm sure, the prize money's so good, but also, up there and take on the absolute best. Yeah. And we would love to have seen Animo running in the Cup because he would have bumped into a young superstar and romantic warrior. Everything he's done in the past, he went to a whole different level. Oh, he was magnificent in this.
Well, as we said previously on the show, this was the horse. I know we talk a lot about Golden 60, but on my ratings, this was the horse even before this race that had the best figures. And he's gone to another level again. He's even eclipsed that. This will be one of the best performances of the calendar year, I would imagine, because he's put up a margin. Now, Shane, I know a lot of the Japanese haven't turned up, but even if they did turn up, the way he won and what the figures that he's put up, they wouldn't have beaten him that day. I couldn't believe how strong he was in the market either.
He was outstanding. It was simply awesome. One of the best wins I've seen for a horse like that. I'd love to put J Mac on the spot and say who's better, him or Animo. That would be a good question to ask him. What does he feel? Yeah. I don't think whatever turned up would have beat him in that race. It wouldn't have mattered. He was just on a different level. But in all fairness, the credit goes to Danny Shum to get a horse like that who is really started out as a 1,200-metre sprinter at Happy Valley, right, to be running first up over 2,000 metres and winning when he's had problems, to being peaking second up. Horses second up don't normally go to another level. They stay the same or go back a bit. He went to another level. So, Danny Shum's got a lot of credit here to take for what he's done with that horse.
Oh, it's a great point. What Danny was able to do to present him first up took us all by surprise. But then we thought, gee, if anything, you're running the risk that you could be a little flat second up after a lengthy break. He went to a whole different level.
Yeah, and he got a lovely ride from J-Mac. I know, and I thought, Shane, the interesting point that J-Mac made when he was asked actually what's this horse's best attribute, and he basically said you can put him where you want him, and then he relaxes. It's a great, I think, was very interesting insight into what James's thought process was there.
Well, but if you remember, Clint, when he was running in 1,200 metres early in his career, he was up running third, fourth, fifth, So he's got that natural gate speed to put him there, and it showed evident from the start on last Sunday. He jumped the length in front and was just there. And then they didn't go really fast like I thought they would. They went an even pace, which just suited him. They run a quick time overall, but it wasn't as though they run the first 600 or 800 really fast. It was just even, I felt. And he just put them in a lovely position, which J-Mac does. He's very good at that. He just puts them in a place where they should be, and he gets them to relax. And he was on a different level, all credit to him. Great training feet, great ride, and great horse. Simple as that.
A brilliant day of racing on Sunday. We're all sitting, due to various protocols, we were sitting at home, but our triple trio becomes a fantastic four when we bring in the person who was on the ground, and that is Nicole Purton, who was sitting there consuming it all. And Nick, welcome to the program yet again. What a fantastic day of racing. Congratulations to Zach. There were so many highlights.
Thank you. Hi, guys. It was such a good day. Hong Kong racing just felt like it was back, like the vibe and the crowd, getting up on the podium. I was loving that. That was awesome. Being out on the track. Well, I said to someone, I'm glad I stuck to my diet. It all worked out. But
Hey, can I touch on Zach's ride, Lucky Swain S, in the sprint? We've just dissected it with a Hall of Fame jockey, and I think all of his points are really valid. Would Lucky Swain S consider coming overseas and tackling a big race like the Everest?
Yeah, so I spoke to Zach about that. And he doesn't think we've seen the best of the horse yet. He thinks give him another 6 months or so, which would be perfect timing for the Everest. But obviously the weather's not great at that time, and he doesn't think he's as effective on the soft ground. But you never know. He hasn't spoken to the connections yet, but I'll definitely be putting my hand up for a trip if it's on the cards. So I guess they all need to sit down and have a think about what the best plan is for the horse and go from there.
What was other news out of the international meeting that caught your eye?
I think the clash between our three best horses. Like, I'm so pumped to see that. They're all going to be suited to that distance in the Stewards Cup, and it's probably the best race that we might see in Hong Kong for a long time. So I think that's going to be really exciting. But I do want to know, Shane, if you could ride any of those three horses, who would you be putting your hand up for?
It would either be Golden 60 or Romantic Warrior.
Well, hang on, but that's two out of the three.
Yeah.
Come on, Shane.
I don't know. Probably the way he's going, you'd have to say Romantic Warrior. Like California Spangle's easy to ride. You just go to the front and you bowl. I said last week, Richo asked me, how would you ride him? I said, well, he's got to quicken the pace at the 700 to 800 to get Golden 60 off the bit and get away from him there. But I don't know whether he would be able to do that with Romantic Warrior, and Romantic Warrior can go forward if he wants. So whereas Golden 60 is more midfieldish, it's very interesting, and I'd probably say Romantic Warrior.
Of course, and what Nicole's talking about, the Stewards Cup, which I think Nicole's in about 7 weeks or so.
Yeah, so late January. So we've set this up, and this is the first leg of what is going to be the Triple Crown. Now, really, only Romantic Warrior is the only one who's going to tackle the Triple Crown. So late January, 1,600 metres, Feb 26, 2,000 metres, May 28, 2,400 metres. Romantic Warrior can do that. He can win all three.
Yeah, he can. He can. I mean, he's just too. I mean, who's to say that he would stay a mile and a half strongly the way he won that 2,000 metre race? And they won't go. It'll be an easier 2,400 than.
He's only got to beat Senor Taylor, with due respect.
Well, there won't be much pace in that sort of race either. But it is late in the year, and it's very hot then. And some that. Well, he can win it. He'll win it, I think, if they decide to go that way.
There was only one horse here, Richo, which could have beat him, and he just hasn't come up. Romantic. I mean, Douglas White's horse, Russian Empire. He just hasn't come up this season. So he's gone, So he's just going to win them all. There's nothing here that can beat him.
Well, that mile's the first one. So think about that. This is our last show for the year, and then we'll be building up towards the meeting in the end of January. Nicole will be part of our team there. But think about that start of that Triple Crown that she's touched on. So Romantic Warrior versus Golden 60 versus California Spangle over a mile. Shane's going to ride Romantic Warrior.
I'll be riding Golden 60.
That leaves me on California Spangle.
You're a front runner.
I'll be up in the front.
You'll be rolling along.
Plus, I've got Zach telling me how to do it.
Yeah,
Richo, to be quite frank, if I'd been riding the whole 3, I'm riding who's ever been paying me the most in slings. That's true. That would be true.
Hey, there's no doubt that'd be true. Hey, Nick, talk about jockey news. There's been a few jockeys that are struggling a little bit for health and fitness. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I actually spoke with Karis and Alexi. It's great to see Karis back at the races. He's had a tough time since September with that thyroid issue, but he rode a winner on Wednesday night, and that was really good to see him back. He's just looking forward to, gaining a bit more momentum, keeping the winners coming. So it's nice to see him back out there. And Alexi Bedell, unfortunately, with that fall recently, he hurt his ankle and his shoulder. But he tells me that his ankle is much better. He's walking around with no crutches. He now just has to make sure that the shoulder's fully healed before he puts too much pressure on it. But he's hoping for a return early January. So that's good news for him. And Matthew Chadwick, I didn't actually get to talk to him, but after the incident, I think it was at the trials on Tuesday, he had an operation yesterday and he's come out of that well. So I saw his wife put up an Instagram post last night. So wish him all the best and a speedy recovery, because it sucks when those things happen.
Yeah, and rehab workouts start now.
Yeah. I believe he said he might have be on the sidelines for 2 months, but hopefully it's not as long as that for his sake.
Yeah, and he was really having a good season too, Matthew Chadwick. So that's most unfortunate.
It's never a good time for those things to happen, unfortunately, as we know.
Yeah, and Nicole, Hong Kong racing said goodbye, and I don't throw this word around lightly, to a legend in Hong Kong racing in Joe Moreira. Did they send him off in style? And what was the relationship? We've asked Zach this. What was the relationship between the two main competitors who were going toe for toe in Zach and Joe?
Well, they actually gave him a really nice send-off in the parade before the first race. It was, I think it was a nice way to send him off. But, he and Zach, they've always got along. They're obviously, both warriors at the end of the day and both out there to win, but they're always cordial to one another, and I think that's the best way to be. But no, Joe, he wants to travel and ride, and I don't begrudge him of that. Never know, you might see us do the same one day. But no, all the best to him. He's
been an unbelievable contributor to Hong Kong racing, because he's been just a wonderful ambassador, hasn't he?
Yeah, and Zach's paid him a lot of compliments in the past. I mean, I think he was asked the question, who's been the best he's ridden against. I think he said Joe. So, they've. What happens, Shane, as well, when you ride against someone, it's like, that you each raise the bar and it sort of improves you because your competition's better. It's in any sport. You see that, if someone comes along that's very good, you've got to, keep lifting your game. And that's exactly what these guys have done. They've improved each other.
Definitely. There's no doubt about that. Joe helped Zach get better, and Zach made Joe maintain his form and to be very competitive. Joe's a great jock, outstanding. Different to a lot of jocks. He's not tactically brilliant because he's more about the horse and getting it in rhythm and stride and getting it on the right leg and keeping them out of danger or trouble. And that's the way he rode from day one, and he did when he left.
Nicole, I've got my pen because last week you gave us a double. First leg got up. I thought, hello, we've got ourselves a new tipping star. Second leg, not so much. So where do we go this week?
I was cheering them both home. But for this week, I've got Excellent Fighter in race 3, number 7 for Jai McNeil. So it would be nice for him to get his first winner. So, hopefully I'm right.
Okay, so is Jess and little Oakley, have they arrived up into Hong Kong, and has Jai settled in?
I believe so. I haven't had the chance to meet them. They don't live on course, and everyone's had a few COVID dramas here. So yeah, I look forward to meeting them soon.
Well, once the COVID issues are out of the way, you're like the matron now of, you got to take Jess under your wing. She's a great girl. Show her around to make sure that Jai falls in love with Hong Kong racing. Yeah. Hey, Nicole, good luck. So that is race 3, horse number 7 in Excellent Fighter. Thanks for being part of our show this year. And we look forward to signing up for a massive contract for next year.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Merry Christmas.
More money to spend.
Oh, yeah. Keep the Hong Kong economy going.
Oh, beautiful stuff. So from Nicole Purton to our black book, and we're going to try to find some future winners, Sweet in Defeat.
6th generation, Miraculous Honour, Super Sunny Sing and Region Glory all in a line. He's going to dig into an empty hole here because Super Sunny Sing has grabbed him, but Super Sunny Sing.
Well, here on the Triple Trio, our black book is called Sweet in Defeat. And Hutch, who jumps into the file this week?
An interesting week as far as the Sweet in Defeat's concerned. Yeah, I've got a few that I'm happy to give another chance to. Golden Express went forward, went on the fence, and that wasn't where he wanted to be. And I thought he had a clear excuse. The market liked him late. He was very well backed. Viva Chaleur, who I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a moment or two. And I thought from Wednesday's meeting, Happy Soul. He was given a nice ride from Lyle Hewittson and he closed off well, but I think, he's not far away from a win. As Shane said on the day, obviously first up 1,200, he ran behind Victor, the winner, but Zach rode him back that day. There wasn't much speed in this race. I'm not sure if Zach really wanted to lead, but he sort of bounced him out of the stalls, Shane, and he ended up going forward, and he ended up in a spot personally where we both agree the fence wasn't great. I know he rolled off a little bit in the straight, but I thought it was a clear excuse, and I'd be happy to stick with him.
Yeah, second up he was, but he's going to be better when he's ridden behind. He'll come back again, no doubt, Clint. He still ran all right, but he probably was a little bit disappointing, but he had excuses. I felt leading was one and being on the fence was the other.
And Bonza Perla there on the number 1 ran 4th. She ran a beauty. This was on the same day. These will both be Derby aspirants in Hong Kong. Viva Chaleur. Have a look at the run. It's actually not that one in the blue. It's just behind there in the red and black. And I think Christophe Lemaire rode, and you can see here just sneaking up. This horse, I didn't realise how good this horse's form was overseas. He had 4 starts. He ran second in a Prix He's got serious form. Of course, his owners have won a Derby before. It's I think it might be a relative of Stanley Ho, might be his daughter, the late Stanley Ho, is a very prominent owner. Richo, if you're not sure, and a man who, a family who have a lot to do with the casinos in Macau. But that was a great run, Shane, I thought. He didn't do a lot of work early. He got home late, and he's an interesting runner.
His first up run over 1,200 I felt was really good. I actually gave him a chance in that race, but whatever he did, he was going to improve, and I think he will improve from that. And when he goes to a mile, he's probably going to be better, but he looks a nice horse, Clint.
Well, it's interesting you bring up about the mile, Shane, because I wasn't sure. When we talk about, it's actually, we're going to feature Group 1 Goldmine a lot with our Derby sort of looks,
which is a great idea to try to find out. It's just
the best tool to have a look at to see where the sources, because I'm not that well acquainted with Wootton Bassett, or I know Stan's a bit in Australia as well, but obviously Stan's overseas, and you've got obviously the line Ifraj, but 16 and 2,000, no problem at all. I was under the understanding that maybe Wootton Bassett might be a little bit more of that sort of sprinting line. But judged on this and looking at what that horse done, and he in Europe, in France, he generally competed over 6 and 7 furlongs. Yeah. So you're just not sure how.
He was only a young horse, though, wasn't he?
Exactly. Yeah. So they've kept him in that distance range. But yeah, they've bought very well here. I'm not sure what they would have paid, but it would be a pretty penny because he had unbelievable form, and he looks like he's been bought for the Derby. And based on Group 1 Goldmine's algorithms, you would have to suggest that this horse is going to be a Derby aspirant and stay the trip without any issue whatsoever.
Now, I put out to you, and I was saying just off the cuff, gee, I tell you what, the horses that you put in the Sweet in Defeat file, I marked them down, and I thought, gee, a lot of them are actually running really well. So our R&D, research and development team, have been working really hard behind the scenes, and we actually thought we'd put some context to it. Now, this will be embarrassing for you, so you don't want to talk, so let's just allow me to talk. 36 horses to have raced since they've gone into the file. 13 have won at their very next start. Yeah. 13 out of 36. 5 have won at their second start after 2 more at their fourth start at some very nice prices. So 20 out of the 36 at 55% have gone on to win once they've been in the file. So, Hutchbuster, this hurts me to say, well done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you. That's the point of it. I mean, we try to, identify future winners. I'm glad it's going that well. So, mate, it's another reason to tune in, Richo. We've stuck with most of them, I think, in our own plays, but not all of them. But yeah, I mean, try and identify those ones, Shane. So it's been a good little run.
Yeah, no, you're going well. Keep it up.
Yeah, which he will. And talking about keeping it up, Genius or Slaughter, everyone's highlight. Here we go.
They sweep for home now. Viander Cross has come very wide. Viander Cross answering the urgings of Shane Dye. Mannerism coming at him. Mannerism has got it.
Daring tactics by Shane Dye. He's got Octagonal in full flight on the corner. Bold tactics by Shane Dye are going to pay off, and he pinches the Chipping Norton.
Genius or Slaughter, Rocky or Viander Cross, our Hall of Fame jockey casts his eye over all the rides during the week in Hong Kong. And Shane, let's start on a positive. Who caught your eye? Who was Genius?
Management folks on Wednesday night, first race. I don't normally like giving it to gate 1 because you don't have to make a decision. You're on the fence. But the thing that won this race was from the rock on. He never left the fence. He showed a lot of patience, and that's what I'm going to show you. 2,200-metre race. The track was big time off on Wednesday night, and Yui wouldn't have known this for the first race. If we have a look here, he's fall back the fence, and he just stays there the whole race, and he gets a beautiful run turning for home. If he had come out at any stage, he wouldn't have won, or if he had tried to go forward at any stage, he wouldn't have won. And he just bided his time. And the horse in front of him's going no good there, so he probably should have been coming out, but he just cut back in here on the point of the turn, and that's what won the race. It was a very good ride. The fence was a huge on fence. The track on Wednesday night was huge bias to the fence. You couldn't be out. Any horse out more or less had no hope. Fence won more or less every race all night, and he just kept coming in the straight. Very good ride.
Brilliant ride. Also, it's interesting, Shane, when you look at the horse, and you picked it up perfectly there saying, look, he's travelling behind a horse who is really struggling. And when they go around that tight turn, do you notice that some horses really struggle to get around and it opens up on the inside? Huey really just ducked up in the inside there.
What Huey actually did in that race is what Douglas White used to do. If you have a look at it again, he just before the turn, you come out half a horse and it gives you a little bit more leeway to swing back in. And that's what Douglas used to do. And it doesn't get them off balance, and it actually kicks off that bend better than going wide. And it works, and that's what won the race. The other very good ride I felt on the week, there were so many, like the big races, Damien Lanes, but was Ryan Moore on Wellington. He had a chance to be one off the fence at the half mile, and he was, but he knew the best part of the track was 3 deep, and when the pace wanted to slide, he wanted to be going forward, and that's when he started to creep, and he pushed the other horse out of the way and come out. It was a 10 out of 10 ride.
Huey's ride reminded me of the velodrome. When, anyone who's ridden a bike around a velodrome and then getting up and then ducking down off the bankment, it's like he did that. And I think Shane described that perfectly, the way just out a little bit and then ducking in the inside. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And in conjunction with that as well, like he looks cool. Like he sort of, whilst he only got there by a narrow margin, when you watch him in the concluding stages, it was like he knew he was going to get there.
He's settled in well here, hasn't he? He's hit the ground running. There's no doubting that. All right, Shane. Who was the Slaughter this week?
I don't think I had one, did I? No.
What is going on? Have you gone soft? Have you got middle-age crisis at the moment?
60, Richie, but it wasn't a bad, Richo, it wasn't a bad ride. What Vincent did, he just rode to percentages, which most 99% of jockeys would do, and it wasn't a bad ride, and I can understand why he did that. But it's something I would not have done from the start of the race, because I'm trying to beat one horse in the race. I'm not trying to win the race. I'm just trying to beat one horse. And if I can beat that one horse, then that means I will win the race.
It's
Christmas time. It's Christmas time.
Something's going on, mate.
He's feeling very festive, and he wants everyone to enjoy their Christmas. I personally think it's very thoughtful of Shane.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping he comes back in the new year with a new zest on life, and we're going to double up on some of these slaughters because
That's right.
there have been a few. I think.
What was a slaughter, Clint? Tell me and I'll tell you yes or no.
Oh, I'm not going to go into that.
Well, I got a long list, mate. I got a long list. We'll just start going. I tell you, mate, Shane, I say this, hand on heart. Are you okay? Is everything okay?
I wish I could get rid of this. I know that.
Well, let's talk global racing, and the World Pool is developing rapidly, Hutch, and it involves now some new meetings as the Hong Kong Jockey Club, through hosting the World Pool, allows everyone to bet into some great race meetings.
Yeah, it's very attractive if you're having a punt or wagering on any of these meetings and all that. We saw some brilliant dividends as well, comparative when you're comparing them to elsewhere. But these are some of the World Pool meetings early in the year. We've got a South African meeting to kick off in January. What about the Lightning Stakes? We'll be all over that one, Richo, as well, the Lightning Stakes. And we've got the Saudi Cup, the Super Saturday into the World Cup. It's one of the great meetings, isn't it, Meydan, the World Cup meeting. But we're really looking forward to, going through those meetings when we pick back up our show early next year.
So the Saudi Cup at $20 million is something extraordinary. All the prize money is just epic in racing at the elite level. So we'll be covering it all on this show. And talking about covering great meetings, Sunday is for Hong Kong racing. We're racing at Sha Tin. Let's analyse the card on Sunday. We're racing at Sha Tin. And Hutch, let's start in race number 8, which is over 1,000 metres, Class 2.
Very interesting meeting all round, I think, on the weekend, because we're in the early part of the card, just before we get to the race we're looking at here, a lot of fair starters. Okay. Richo, there's a lot of horses stepping out. In fact, Nicole's already recommended one, and I've got to get through a lot of trials. And as does Shane, and he watches them all.
So you're both going to be very busy boys. So watch Hutchie's Honkers. Tune in, of course, around midday Australian Eastern time. You'll be getting the email for Sunday.
This race here it's a good race. Obviously down the straight course, and that has its own element of interest. But WizKid, who absolutely blew them away with a very good figure first up. Last start. He comes back to the straight. I don't think I know he's run well down the straight, but Handsome Bobo was in this race. This is going back earlier in the season where Lucky With You hung on narrowly for Zach Purton, and he's been competitive since. Obviously, WizKid's come out of this race and won, but Handsome Bobo might go out at a reasonable price. They've both got a couple of runs under the belt since then. Shane, I'm not sure what your thought process is on the two. I mean, WizKid, he's the claim will no doubt help, and he's a jump and run type of horse, but I actually prefer him around the bend. I think he's more of a Happy Valley or an all-weather horse.
He's won up the straight before, so that's not a problem, but you are correct. He's better at Happy Valley around a bend. I don't think there's many chances in this race, Clint. A lot of these aren't going any good. Trillion Win's interesting, coming back from a bleeding attack. Then you've got Handsome Bobo, who's racing well, likes the straight, WizKid, and then you probably got to drop down to Pinging Galaxy. There's not that.
Yeah, the one that Zach rides in this race is Ping Hai Galaxy.
Yeah, he can run well. He's racing well, but most of these horses aren't. Like Jumbo Fortune's coming back from 1650 to 1,000 metres, but Poundap's gone. He's interesting. He's up in this class now. He's better in Class 3, of course, but he has gone well up the straight, even though he gets beat. So even though he gets back, I should say, he's going to get back and run on. But I think the two here you're looking at, or the three are WizKid, Handsome Bobo, and Pingoi Galaxy.
Yeah, and the one you mentioned as well, I think Trillion Win. He's a really interesting runner because he's a class horse. He's drawn the right side for Hugh Bowman. We've seen him win fresh. He can carry weight, and I just think he'll get a nice run there. And the fresh legs on the scene, as Shane mentioned, a few of these horses, I don't know really where. WizKid's going well. He'll be there or thereabouts, but he'll be one that I'm hoping the markets has pretty short, and we'll be able to sort of spec around him a little bit.
Okay, so we're going to be monitoring the market there, and Hutchie's Honkers, he's given us a few that we're going to be assessing there. But of course, the final ratings will be coming through on Sunday morning. So that's 1,000 metres down the straight. Then we move to race number 9.
Race number 9 is an interesting race. We've got some horses in great form in this race. Fiery Diamond has won his last 3 and he's bidding for 4 in a row. And he beat a number of his rivals there on the weekend. A lot of this field faced him last time out. But it'll be a different track, I would imagine, on the weekend. It was a rain-affected bit, or a sealed track. And I'm predicting and hoping that we go back to a more normal track. Youthful Deal won on the same day, of course, as a number of these competed on the all-weather recently. So he's in form, but you can see
it was wet and willing here,
now,
wasn't it?
Interestingly, in this race, and I'll be sticking with him, was a horse that started favourite, Maduri Beauty. I just don't think he was at home on this kind of surface. And he started favourite, Shane. On face value, not too many excuses, but I think it's just one of those days where, you've got to be quite forgiving. First of all, of margins, and second of all, just in some horses aren't quite as good on it. He'll return to much better form, I think, on that more consistent, even all-weather surface on the weekend.
Well, first up, it was a leader's track, and it probably won't be that tomorrow on Sunday. Secondly, Fairy Diamond meets most of these 10 to 12 pounds worse off. So that's a lot of weight. But he has won 3 from 3 this season, I think, hasn't he, on the dirt? And he's flying. Midori Beauty's got gate 12. He'll probably race back a bit, but gate 12's good as long as the track's fair. I'm not convinced about this race, Clint. Manstar was racing well, but he went bad on the dirt, the wet dirt, and you can forgive him. He can go better. Youthful Deal's coming up to Class 3, and he's been racing well. And from gate 2, he's going to get a beautiful run with 116 pounds. He's not out of it, Youthful Deal.
So Fiery Diamond goes up 10 ratings points. So here's horse number 3. You've mentioned already Zach Purton with Midori Beauty. So Zach appears to have some live chances later on in the day.
He does. And I as Shane said, the wide barrier is perfect for this horse as well. He's a little bit erratic. He can jump a bit funny and he's not an easy ride, but I'll actually like him outside of horses in clear air. I don't want to see him sort of, in amongst them. I think he deserves another chance. I'm not sure where the market will go. I mean, Fiery Diamond will be in the mix, but as Shane's pointed out, he had a few favours last time out. But I think Maduri Beauty definitely deserves one more chance.
And then in race 10, we jump back onto the turf. It's over a mile. It's a Class 3 race. So how do we play this?
This is a good race. This is a horse that Shane napped last time out, then I think he'll be hard to beat again. And then in Accelerando, he's on that second page. But on the first page, Never Too Soon can run well. Stunning Impact arrives in winning form, and the form around him is very good. Of course, he beat Sweet Encounter, who had excuses the last time they met, but he showed Stunning Impact that the win was no fluke. But I've marked Accelerando a $2.30 chance in this race. I think he will start shorter, and he might even start shorter than that. But he's, I think Stunning Impact's got to be relatively safe in the market, and this is what Accelerando did. I was surprised, Shane, when I went back over this and looked at the sectionals, actually how quick they were going and how close he was in the run, and it was a dominant performance. I like the fact he goes up in grade now, and in the past, Zach hasn't been able to ride these horses that go up on the back of a winning class, and now with the weights he can, and it's a big plus. This horse will, really be at home with just, 121 pounds on his back.
He's going to run well, you know that. There's a little bit of pace in this race too. So you wouldn't think that with Massive Action, who's a 1,100 metre horse going to a mile, he's going to go quick, you would think. He's going to lead. You've also got World Famous who will go forward. So there's a couple there that are going to send them along. He's going to be very hard to beat, Clint. He's one of John Sizer's who just keeps improving with every run, and he's a nice horse. I thought Happy Daily didn't have much luck last start, and he could run a race here. And, of course, Stunning Impact. The only thing with Stunning Impact, he looks as though he wants a mile, and he's been running over 1,400 and been impressive. He's definitely improved this season with the new trainer with I think he left. He's definitely improved, and there's no risk about that. When he's gone to a mile, he hasn't been as effective as he was over 1,400, which is unusual because he looks as though he wants a mile. But he's racing very well. He's gone to another level. He's a definite chance, but I'd have Zach on top for sure.
Accelerando will be my suggested play in that race, Rich, and I think Stunning Impact. Other horse that we haven't mentioned Shane, Happy Day. I mean, that horse has also been
Definite.
just knocking on the door, and below him, Storm Legend. I think there'd be a little bit of value maybe in some Quinellas. I'll be with Accelerando, but I think Stunning Impact in a Quinella. But I think Happy Day and, of course, Storm Legend aren't completely out of sort of hitting the frame either.
A wonderful insight into the last 3 races, and Zach Purton is certainly to the fore. Now, we've had some technical difficulties getting on to Danny Shum, our very special star guest today, so we might have to park him for early in the new season and get the build up towards the next start for Romantic Warrior. So apologies in regards to our star power guest, unfortunately not able to join us. But now, let's find some best bets. We've already got one from Nicole Purton in race 3. So where do you go, Hutch?
Yeah, that's my best of the day, Accelerando. I think we'll have to wait till the last, and we'll be happy to back him a win. And like I said, take the Quinellas mainly with Stunning Impact, but also have a little bit on the Happies. Put the Happies in, particularly Happy Day.
Okay, so we're going to have a whole lot of happiness. What about you, RS Dye? No doubt you had the list. You've been ticking them all off one by one. What are you thinking?
I'm a long way behind this week. I had to go to a funeral, unfortunately, yesterday, so I haven't done a lot of work. One race I did look at, which there's a lot of speed. They're going to go 100 miles an hour. And if he can just forget about the pace and let them go and sit 3 or 4 lengths off them, Stand Up. I think Stand Up will run well. He's racing well on the dirt, but the race could shape to suit him from gate 4. He won't be far away.
I've got one. Race 6, number 3, my boy Cape Breton. Second up from the spell, draws sort of midfield, can camp, smother him up, pop him out so he doesn't see the winning post until right at the end.
Well, you've given one tip the whole time. One tip the whole time we've been doing this series, and you had a $17 place getter. And Shane, for those of you who don't know, Richo was getting a bit of a hard time about what he was delivering on the show. Yeah. And they were saying, "What do you bring?
What do you do?
Your return on investment's no good." And it can't be because he hasn't been tipping. But I thought that was quite an interesting take from one watcher.
What did you say then, Smarty
I said
Pants?
I can tell you what you deliver to the show week in and week out if you want to know.
Yeah, what is that? Absolutely nothing.
Shines. You shine. Look at your head. It's so shiny. It just shines.
Hey, my coat is just flourishing. It's enjoying the summer weather.
Exactly.
I bring a voice which isn't mine at present.
Oh, no. I tell you what, hopefully by the time we come back, the Triple Trail, we are back on the 27th of January. So on behalf of that, we're a part of a big team and we love every little bit of it. For everyone, have a great Christmas and be really safe and cheap. Enjoy your passion and keep your passion up for Hong Kong racing. Shane, hope you're feeling better by the time we get to the 27th of January. We're going to be up at Magic Millions. Hopefully, Hutch and I can catch up with you and you can show us around your town.
If you want to come out, I'll take you out for a night. But it'll be a late one, boys. Won't be early.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
What time do you like to go home at your age?
I don't know. I'm younger than you, brother, so whatever. I'll keep pushing on. Hey, Shane, we've had a lot of fun, mate. Thanks so much for your contribution and your wonderful insight.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy New Year, and hope you're all back. Lots of winners.
And Hutch, it's been a lot of fun, mate. Thanks for putting it all together.
No, thanks to you and of course to Shane and everyone who's watched. We really appreciate it. We're going to be bigger and better in the new year, and we look forward to hopefully entertaining you, finding you some winners, and having a lot of fun along the way.
Hey, the beauty is that Hutchie's Honkers will continue on, so make sure you subscribe each and every week. And if you're in Australia, you can watch it on 7+ or through Hutchie's Honkers wherever you are in the world. Merry Christmas, everyone. Good punting on the weekend. Thank you.